Today's episode is a little different than the normal episode where we are helping kids and talking about how to overcome different adversities in life. I have a guy that started out in Omaha, Nebraska, went to a JUCO, then played D1 baseball, who is now the baseball operations guy and the assistant coach for the Savannah Bananas. Will be joined by Adam Virant, Coach VIRO. Stay tuned. Welcome back to 90 Feet Away. Today is going to be outstanding. I've been looking forward to this for quite some time. Proud to call this guy a friend, but way beyond that, this guy's journey is just an incredible one. I know him as Adam Virant. To you, he's Coach VIRO, who is an assistant coach at the Savannah Bananas, but so much more than that. He's the head of baseball operations and just overall good guy. Coach VIRO, thanks for being with us today.
Man, thanks for having me, Eric. I'm fired up, and geez, this is like meeting up with an old friend for coffee and picking up right where we left off.
Hell yeah, man. Hell yeah. So you know, off air, we started talking a little bit. You and I met through a true baseball guy, Nate Fish, right? You were Nate's guy from the city and Brooklyn, and I had met Fish in Israel in 2007, and obviously we both remain, very good friends with him. You started in the city. I mean, I don't even know where to start with you, VIRO. Tell me about VIRO. First, the kid, the late kid, the teenage VIRO, the ball player. And then I want to get into every aspect of your life because you're really an interesting guy.
Man, thanks for those kind of words. Well, I grew up in Omaha, Nebraska. And for me, looking back, there was no better place for a guy like me to grow up. I was heavily into sports, pretty calm kid and loved nature. And so growing up in Omaha was perfect for me, but it was perfect for one specific reason where I learned everything I know about the game, and that was the College World Series. Grew up going to Rosenblatt every single summer with my uncle and my father, and seeing a different brand of baseball from around the country that you didn't see unless, you were in California or Florida or Texas or wherever it may be. And every summer I got to see this culmination of the greatest amateur players come together. They looked differently. They played differently. They spoke differently. And that, for a kid like me who loved baseball, that was everything. I wouldn't trade it for the world. And so I started wearing my hats and in my like the Miami guys, the flat billed hats back in the 80s before, it was cool nowadays. But yeah, I learned everything I wanted to learn in baseball at the College World Series. And, that's really where it kind of, ignited my love of the game. I tell people all the time that baseball literally has given me everything in life. Now, sure, I went to college and I have professors, I have people that have taught me things, but the foundational aspects of life that make me wake up every single day and do my job, I learned from baseball, and I attribute it from what I learned at the College World Series in Omaha. And so, that's where I'm from, and I'll tell you more about my journey, but yeah.
Yeah, no. So I want to hear, so going to the World Series, did that motivate you to say, I want to be like this guy, or I want to play at this college? You mentioned Miami. They're a mainstay. They're there all the time. A Louisville. Who did you want to be like, VIRO, and where did you want to go play baseball?
Fantastic question. Mississippi State. Ron Polk was the head coach of Mississippi State, and I have a very, very vivid memory of meeting Ron Polk when I was probably 11 years old. During the College World Series, the teams would go and practice at local high schools because there was one main stadium, so they would spread out. And Mississippi State came to Papillion La Vista to practice. That's where I went to high school. And of course, we all filtered there and we watched them go through their whole routine and everything. And the coaches talked to us, all the high school players, at the end of the practice, and very motivational. Ron Polk said, "Hey, whatever you want in life, go get it. Don't let anybody tell you no." And very kind of stock motivation, but that hit really, really hard. And then he said something that I tell people to this day. He said, "If you want to become something, you gotta live and breathe and become that." He said, "If you want to become a baseball player, you got to look the part, you got to act the part, and you got to be as tough as nails." And he turns and he points at me and he's like, "This kid right here, look how he's wearing his baseball cap. That's how a baseball player wears his baseball cap." He's like, "You got to do that every single day." And I was like, I'm the coolest guy on the planet right now, because Ron Polk called me out and gave me a little shout out. And so I wanted to become a Mississippi State Bulldog for forever, even till this day. And so, of course, watching LSU and the gorilla ball with Lyle Mouton and Joey Bell and all those guys back in the day was really awesome. But Mississippi State was my team growing up.
That's awesome. That's such a cool story. VIRO, the baseball player. Yeah. VIRO, the high school guy going through the recruiting process. How'd that go? What was that like for you coming out of Omaha?
Yeah, well, a lot different in the 90s than it is nowadays. You went out, you just played. That's all you did. There was no showcases. I went to one camp my entire career because it just didn't exist. They weren't showcase camps. And so I just went out and played, man. I loved just being on the ball field with the guys. I loved being in the dugout. And so, my journey at a very young age was different than it is now for a lot of folks. And it was really just loving showing up every single day, loving the practices, loving the good, the bad, and the ugly. Luckily I had supportive parents who they would show up in the stands and they wouldn't say anything to me at all. They wouldn't coach me. They wouldn't argue with the umpires. They wouldn't argue about playing time. They wouldn't do some of these things that we're seeing more and more in the youth game that I'm sure we might get to. All they did was just provide positive support. My mom would cheer with the other moms, and my dad would sit there and chew sunflower seeds. And before it became cool for parents to say, "Hey, man, I love watching you play," that's how they treated me. I got done, and I took it very seriously. And if I had a good day or a bad day, it was always just very positive. Like, "Hey, that was really cool, man. I got some cool photos, and you want to go get pizza?" And so, I loved everything about the game. And so when talking about the recruiting process, there was no recruiting process for me. I knew that I was probably going to play baseball if I was worthy. I had a lot of interest from professional scouts, surprisingly. I got a lot of letters. I went to a pre-draft physical back in the day when you could do that with the Minnesota Twins, guy named Joe Leppel, who's an absolute legend there. Just saw something in me, and I honestly thought I was going to get drafted. And I was a little undersized. I shouldn't have gotten drafted, but I really thought I did. I could throw, I could run, I could hit. And I knew I wanted to go play baseball, but they just weren't knocking, right? 2 weeks before I graduated, got a lot of interest, didn't really have any care to go to some of these D2 or D3 schools. No disrespect. I just didn't want to go there. 2 weeks before college was supposed to start, I get a call from Fort Scott Junior College down in Kansas. And they said, "Hey, you know what? We got some of your teammates coming down, some guys that I played with who got all state honors and were really legit." And I was like, "You know what? I think I'm going to go down with those guys. If it's good enough for them, it's good enough for me." So signed up, went down to Fort Scott Community College. And full disclosure, and Jeff Curtis, who signed me from Fort Scott, the main reason I wanted to go there is because their jerseys look like Florida State. They had the interlocking F and S. So I figured, if I was wearing this gear, maybe I could fool somebody that I was playing for Florida State when I was really playing for Fort Scott. And went down there, and I think I visited the school like the week before school started, and it was in the middle of nowhere. It's about 2 hours south of Kansas City, literally in the middle of nowhere. And which was fine because it's kind of what I grew up in. And went down there, enrolled, and I showed up day one at practice, and there were 6 catchers there, 2 of which were draft and follow guys. One guy who actually played minor league baseball for like 10 games and got relieved, then you could go back and play college. And I called my dad and I said, Dad, there's 6 catchers here, and I don't know if I'm going to make the team. He said to me, well, you have a choice. You can either stick it out and see what happens, or I'll come pick you up tomorrow. I was like, yeah, you know what? I'm going to stick it out. So glad I did, because I ended up starting that year as a freshman. Batted about 415 or so, had a pretty good year, and then came back that following year and became honorable mention All-American, had some really good accolades. I think we lost only about 15 games, should have went to the World Series and just had some bad beats, and had a great junior college career. I mean, I tell you what, I told a lot of my players that I've worked with over the years, you know what, don't be so focused on Division I. Don't be so focused on the big shiny thing. If it's for you, it will present itself. But let me tell you something. If you want to become a baseball player and really, really see what you're made out of, junior college will smooth those rough edges and turn you into something that you didn't even know you had in you. And that's what it did to me. I mean, I was a sheltered little kid from the Midwest, and I was down there with absolute savages playing Seminole Junior College and Connor State, and just getting beat up every single weekend. But it taught me a lot about myself. So when I say baseball's given me everything, it's that junior college experience really, really kind of solidified who I was and who I am as a man today.
It's interesting, and you jumped ahead to something that I talk about all the time. The D1 sounds sexy. I'm always trying to help kids figure out, go somewhere that you're going to get a great education academically, but where am I going to have a shot to compete walking in the door? I don't care if it's D1, D2, D3, or JUCO, NAIA. You are top 5% of baseball players in the country, right? You should be proud to do that, to have that opportunity. So you finish up there, and then George Mason. How does that happen?
Yeah. So I was playing college summer ball with the Red Oak Red Sox in the Jayhawk League, and had a bunch of offers, Rice, K-State, McNeese, Nichols. I had some offers, and nothing felt right. A little bit of money, and I was playing summer ball, and there was a guy that I knew. His name is Dayton Moore. Dayton Moore was a coach at George Mason, and he was following me at Fort Scott, and he was going to take a Braves scouting position, and hired my junior college coach, my assistant coach from Fort Scott, to come in. And so, of course, I'm immediately on their radar. They had a kid named Joey Goodwin who got drafted in the 10th round. They didn't know if he was going to sign or not. And so the message to me was, if he signs, you're our guy to come in and take that spot. So I was basically toiling it out in the minor leagues, so to say, waiting to see if Joey signed, and he eventually signed. So as soon as he did, that offer came in, I signed, and I was in George Mason two weeks later, and off and running.
That's awesome. Okay. So 2 years at Mason. One thing I didn't know, Viro, and this is wild to me that I didn't know this. You finish college and you end up going to law school.
I did.
I had no idea, dude. Like, how does this happen? Kid from Omaha, my man. Explain this to the audience.
Tom Cruise. Tom Cruise made a movie called Jerry Maguire. It's his fault.
No way. My God. Show me the money.
Show me the money. Show me the money. It's, I got done playing baseball. I had a career-ending injury. I was slated to get drafted. It didn't happen. I snapped my arm in a conference tournament in front of about 40 scouts and a bunch of cross-checkers. It happens, right? But life comes at you fast, right? And so moved back to Omaha, got a job. I'd always been a smart guy and just didn't know what to do. I kind of, felt sorry for myself for a little while, got over it, and said, you know what? I want to stay in the game, but I want to do something meaningful. I want to do something real. I didn't want to coach at that time. And like I said, Jerry Maguire was out in the theaters, and he just glamorized the sports agent business. And I said, you know what? I could do that. So took the LSAT, did horrible on it, got into the only law school that would allow me to go in, Thomas Cooley Law School, which is now, I think, Detroit College of Law. It's gone through a number of rebranding, but yeah, I went to law school in Lansing, Michigan, and I loved it, man. I tell you what, everybody says law school is going to be the worst part of your life and you're going to hate it. Man, I saw it as a competition. I really, really did. I kind of attacked it from a whole different angle. I wasn't a good writer at all. I hated reading. I mean, I shouldn't have been there, but it was literally it was a new arena for me to compete in. And I did that. Graduated in 2.5 years with honors. And that led me to the East Coast. I needed to do an internship and had a law professor who did a lot of good work in New Jersey and New York area on asbestos litigation on the plaintiffs. And he drove me to a law firm in Woodbridge, New Jersey for an internship. And once I got on the East Coast, I absolutely fell in love with it. Absolutely fell in love with
So you're killing me. Like, I don't even need to be here today, Viro. You're taking over my job here. That was the next question. How'd you get to the East Coast? I mean, how did you fall in love with New York City pizza? Kid from Omaha. Yeah. Like, these are things. Let me ask you. All right, so now you get to Woodbridge, New Jersey. You're doing your internship. You just can't stay away from baseball.
I loved it.
Is it like Mike Corleone? Like you try to get out and they keep sucking you back in?
Yeah.
Tell me how you can't get away from it.
Yeah, I mean, once it's in you, Eric, it's in you. I don't need to tell you, right? I mean, I definitely had a rough patch after that career and an injury, and kind of was like, all right, baseball's done. But man, I stuck with it. I always paid attention. I was paying attention to some of my buddies who I played with who made it up to the big league. So, I was still interested, but I turned that page, and it was time to kind of get real. But the whole time that I was at that internship, there was a guy who was actually kind of dabbled in sports agency, and I kind of learned a little bit and saw that, and I realized that wasn't for me. That's a cutthroat, tough business. It just wasn't for me. Quite frankly, the law was not for me at all. I was good at it because I could compete and I could wake up every single day and I could show up. And so, I practiced law for 10 years, I knew from the moment I got sworn in, this wasn't for me. Got sworn into the New York bar, and again, like, just sheer grit got me through that toughest bar in the country, but it just wasn't for me. And there came a time when I said, I can't do this anymore. I was looking for a way out, and talking with my dad, who was a lifelong educator. And he said, you know what, son, you love baseball. You like helping people. You like teaching people. Why don't you go coach? Why don't you try that out? See if you like it. If you don't, you can move on to something else. You got an education. So that's what led me to New York City. And you want to know the story about how I got my first job in New York City?
Hell yeah. Keep going, kiddo. So
no idea how to find a coaching job, how to find a baseball job. So I go to Craigslist, which I don't even know if that's still around. And most of the kids who are going to be listening to this are like, what's Craigslist? I went on
if you need a couch. If you need a couch, you go to Craigslist.
That's right.
Keep going.
I went on the job postings. I just typed in baseball coach, and a lot of just kind of random things popped up. But probably a game on thing popped up. But there was a job posting for baseball coach at an Upper East Side batting facility, and I was like, that sounds really cool. Upper East Side.
Now, are you living in the city at this point, or are you living in New Jersey?
I'm living in Jersey City at this time.
In Jersey City, okay.
I'm living in Jersey City.
Okay.
And so I see this job posting. I'm like, cool, let's try it out. It's probably this palatial layout. It's probably amazing. Upper East Side. They probably bring in, shots of espresso tea in between your each rounds. I'm like, this is going to be perfect for me. So I submit a full on resume, and that resume goes to the world famous Nate Fish. All right. I get a response back, and he's like, come on up, interview with me. So he gives me the address. I dress up in a suit, full on suit, because that's 90% of my wardrobe coming out of the law business. I hop on the train, take the 4 train up to 106th Street. And I think I had to switch to the 6th. Doesn't matter. Get off on 106th and make my way to 106th and 1st to the Upper East Side batting facility, which was a public school on 106th and 1st. And I walk inside, and it's a school gym, dimly lit. I think the lights were orange. There was just turf just rolled out. There's some sad excuses for cages that were lowered down from the ceiling. And I walk in, and Nate's there wearing sweatpants and a t-shirt and looking like Nate does. And
hat with no brim.
No hat with no brim. And I sit down at an elementary school table that, comes up to your knees in these little chairs, and it's just Nate and I, again, full on suit, tie. And he's interviewing me, and I'm talking to him about, played Division I baseball, went to law school, my upbringing. We really connected. And he says to me, he's like, I feel really, really bad offering you this job, but if you want it, you can have it.
That's such a perfect. If you don't know Nate, like, it couldn't be more perfect. I mean, and yeah, York. That is where the Yorkville Baseball Center used to exist. Right. I've been to that gym. It's not even a full size gym. It's like half of a full size gym. And you did. That's how you started with like after school programs and stuff like that in New York. And that's awesome to hear. Unbelievable.
But,
I'm going to fast forward.
Really quick,
yeah, go. No. Yeah, take your time.
Despite the environment, what I learned was that I had no idea how to coach. It allowed me an opportunity to learn something about myself and figure it out, quite frankly. So despite my expectations were where they were, which you shouldn't have expectations because nobody cares about your expectations. You're only going to let yourself down. But I really learned everything that I needed to learn about coaching youth players from Nate and some of these other guys who came in there in that environment.
It's hard for me to hear you say something like that because you are what exudes a leader. You're a very even-keel guy. You don't get crazy. You don't get high. You don't get low. So to hear that you had to really learn about coaching the game is interesting to me. Let's get into a little bit. I want to get into year 1 in Savannah, Georgia. Now, I don't want to get into Jesse first because Jesse's my hero. We're going to talk about that in a few minutes. What does Nate Fish say to you to get you to leave New York, where you're now established in the Bulldog Baseball Club, to go down for truly what is unknown, total unknown? How does that happen, Adam?
Yeah. It started in Cape Cod when Fish was coaching at Whitey Red Sox, and he was coaching with a guy named Tyler Gillum. Tyler Gillum and I and Nate had breakfast one morning, and Tyler said, hey, I'm thinking about going to coach this team called the Savannah Bananas. You ever heard about them? And at that time, I had only seen what a lot of people in America had seen was a breakdancing first base coach. He was on ESPN, and I remember seeing that for the first time, and had the same effect on me like the Bananas have on a lot of people. And it was like, that's a joke. That's just a gimmick. Right. And then Tyler was like, nah, man, they're doing some really great things. They're really trying to change how baseball is enjoyed. And they were just doing the Coastal Plains League at that time, the summer collegiate league. So it was just straight up baseball. So fast forward probably 4 years later, they start testing this thing called banana ball, and it's not Coastal Plains League anymore. It's in the off season, and Tyler, who is the head coach for that summer league team, was coaching in South Mountain Junior College down in Arizona. He couldn't coach that team in the fall. And so he called up Nate and he's like, you're perfect for this. Can you go down? I need somebody who's going to fit in that environment. I think you can do it. So Nate said, absolutely. Nate called me and said, I'm going to go do this and I want you to come with me. And I was like, okay, what is it? What's the situation? He kind of laid it out. It's only going to be like 2 weeks or so. And he said,
right, it was like 6 games, right? Like the first.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
They were going to do 3 games in Savannah and 3 games on their One City World Tour in Mobile, Alabama. Right.
Okay.
So Nate was like, this is a thing. And I can't explain it, but this is a thing. And the one thing about Nate that you know, and many people who do know him, is he's no BS. This guy is one of the most intelligent people that I've ever met. Very, very just like, man, very guru type where like, hey man, like I hang on every one of his words and I trust him. So I was like, you know what? I'll come down. Do they know I'm coming? And he's like, yeah, I'll let them know. I got to put together a coaching staff. So I told my boss, hey, I want to go do this. And he was gracious enough to let me go do it. So I showed up down in Savannah. Nobody knew I was coming. I don't know if that slipped through the cracks.
No, I mean, but that's also fish. Like we'll sneak you in the back door. Yeah, you're good.
Yeah, nobody knew I was coming, and so I'm meeting Jesse, who we'll get into in a second. I'm meeting him for the first time. I'm meeting Barry Aldridge, who is kind of a vice president of everything. And they're like, "Oh, what's your name?" Oh, great, And it didn't matter because I was now in this magical place down in Savannah that is just oozing with creativity and positivity and happiness. And their focus was on creating a whole brand new game for players to enjoy, for fans to enjoy, and really to kind of sweep the nation. So I was on that very, very front edge of it coming down to Savannah that first week.
But that's interesting, Viro, because I came down, I think it was your 3rd or 4th game, and you guys were gracious enough to get me, a uniform, and I was in the dugout with you guys, which was just a blast. We didn't know what it was going to be. I mean, nobody had any inkling. Like you said, there were haters. I mean, just straight up haters. Here's my take as a baseball purist. My take on Jesse Cole. I meet Jesse. He is an incredible type A guy. He wants things done the way he wants them done because he believes and has conviction in everything that he set up to do this the way he wants, fans first. What does that mean? I mean, people say fans first. No, everything is about the fans, the community, having an incredible experience. Now, this is not banana ball yet because it's game 3. But Jesse, what people don't know, if they didn't read his book, Jesse believed in this so much with his wife. I forget her name.
Emily.
That they mortgaged their house 3 times and put everything they had into this. This isn't something that was passed down to Jesse. He didn't have his own money. He put his life into building something that he believed in and had the foresight to do this the right way. So now here we are 4 years later, 3 years later, from a one-town tour in Alabama to literally a world tour. They didn't know who you were. You're now head of baseball ops and involved in so many things. I don't want to say where. I know What inspired Jesse? You talk about the creativity and working together with people and social media, coming up with these crazy ideas, guys on stilts, bats on fire, stealing first base, a ball being hit in foul territory, caught by a fan being in a... Walk us through some of this stuff. Walk us through what makes Jesse tick. Walk us through what it's like behind the scenes in your creative meetings.
Man, you said a lot there that you said a lot that is very important. It starts with Jesse and Emily. Jesse when he watches this, he's going to hate that I say it, but he's a true visionary. He saw it in his head. He worked through it in his head. He idea session like crazy. And he knew we were going to be where we are today, playing in 6 major league stadiums, selling out every single stand, every stadium, 2.8 million people on the wait list looking for tickets. He saw that in his head. So he knew it was going to happen. He just knew that he'd have to get through that rough patch. Emily Cole stood by him and was the greatest co-captain that anybody could ever imagine. Literally like Charlie Munger and Warren Buffett type stuff. The hardest workers, Eric, and this is no disrespect to you or any of these people that I've ever had the pleasure to come across, Jesse Cole and Emily Cole work harder together through really, really sticky stuff than anybody I've ever seen. And they don't do it for their own personal game. They do it for me. They do it for you as the fans. They do it for everybody. They are so selfless. And when you're around people like that fires you up to try to be your best every single day. Days get long. Things get hairy. You get up because they show up every single day, every single minute. And it starts with them. But Jesse saw this in his head. He knew that baseball attendance was dropping 30% in Major League Baseball. What was happening? Games are too long. There's all these reasons, right? Games are too long. We're living in a new culture where it's like instant gratification. The game has been slipping. The players just don't care about the fans. Baseball doesn't care about the fans. It's too expensive. All of these things that he identified as, man, why are people not coming to the ballpark, or why are they leaving early? And let's try to correct that. So the whole idea of Fans First, which is the name of our company, Fans First Entertainment, drives every single decision that is made in Banana Land. The question is asked, what is best for the fans? Is this best for our fans? In Savannah, it was a $25 ticket. It went up a little bit, but it's all you can eat. Burgers, hot dogs, chicken sandwiches, sodas, cookies, chips, everything. So you can bring you and your family to the ballpark for about $100 and not be out of pocket once you get here unless you want to be, and everybody's happy. That's the most Fans First thing in the world. If you can't afford a front row seat, no big deal. Line up and it's first come, first serve on seats. There's nothing better than that. You want to meet all your players? Cool. You don't have to get lucky and see them as they're coming in and out. We're going to come into the stands and connect with you. We're going to see you before the game. We're going to see you after the game. And you're going to be able to connect. We're breaking down that barrier so you can see your heroes up front. The rules are all engineered for the fans, for the most amount of excitement in baseball. Baseball, as you know, and I'm a baseball purist, I love this game. It is literally giving me everything. I can sit down and watch a 3-hour game, a 5-hour game. I understand the nuances of the game, and that to me is special. A lot of people can't. But baseball, from a banana ball standpoint, it's 2 hours long, right? Jesse knows when people start getting bored. Jesse knows when there's a lull in the action, how to bring it back up. He engages the fans in the game. You mentioned fan catching a foul ball. There's nothing more Fans First than being able to record an actual out in a game, right? Like, come on. And so everything from the rules to the ticketing, to the food, to the engagement, everything is geared towards the fans. And I got to be honest, I've been in here for 4 years now, and a lot of companies I've been around and read books, they talk a big game. They really do. They try to crack the culture code. And yeah, there's a lot of hot statements out there. And hey, we're gonna have pizza parties, and we're gonna unlimited vacation time, and they try to artificially create great culture. Here in the Banana Land, that culture is as strong today as it's ever been, because Jesse, Jared Orton, our president, Emily Cole, Marie, every day one employee, all the way down through us, we care about each other. We see each other as fans. We see each other as teammates. And more importantly, we know that everything we do is to bring joy and happiness, not just on our fans, but on each other. And if we all kind of keep the perspective on that, and they hold the line at the top, that trickles down. And so the culture here is second to none. It's easy to go out there every single day and put on a show for the fans. We're out there for 11 hours. 11 hours. We show up at noon. We don't leave till 11. And it's easy to do because you got leaders like Jesse and Emily who believe in this vision, and they do it every single day.
People don't understand that, Viro. It's not lead by words. It's lead by action. For me, and again, I say this where I have nothing to do with it, I have a sense of incredible pride for you, for Jared, for the team, for Jesse. I was there in the pouring rain. I was there watching the staff, the players, raking the field to get, because they didn't want. It's easy to rain out a game, but it's not easy to put the work in to do it for the fans. How many seats was Grayson? What, 5,000?
Yeah, it was just under 5,000.
So Grayson Stadium in Savannah is under 5,000. Within 4 years, you have a 2.8 million fan waiting list for tickets. Any inkling, thought, wildest dream that you were going to sell out Fenway Park, that you were going to sell out Minute Maid Park in Houston? I mean, Viro, even for you, right? Like, you're doing your thing in front of 4,000 people, which for a kid from Omaha, transplanted to New York, into Georgia, I'm an entertainer now. Now you went from being an entertainer in front of 4,500 to 45,000. What was that like for you, man?
Last year, I asked Patrick Briotti, our director of World Tour, when I found out we were going to 6 major league stadiums this year, said, are we going to be able to sell these things out? I know we can sell out 12,000. I know we can sell out 15,000. 45,000 is different. Are we going to be able to do it? And he, without the question even being out of my mouth, he's like, absolutely. We could have done it this year. We could probably sell it out twice. And I was like, okay, sometimes you got to pump yourself up to really kind of like pull those bootstraps up. But he was right. He was right. And not only have we sold out those major league stadiums, but we have 15, 20,000 people lining up for the gates to open at 5:30, an hour and a half before game time. And we have a full house at Minute Maid Park in Houston an hour before the game. Full house. Josh Reddick was in the dugout with us, longtime Astro, great. And he said, I've never seen this before. He said, I've never seen this many people in the ballpark this early. The game goes on. Nobody left. When the game was over, there were still 40,000 plus people in the stands. Josh said, I've never heard it louder in here. He's like, Game 6 World Series, that was close, but I've never heard it louder in here. And when that happened, Eric, you play in front of 4,500, you can see individual people. You can see their eyes. You can see their mannerisms. When you're playing in front of 45,000, it's literally like watching a video game and with the crowd in the background and the spectators. And sure. You kind of, hey, those are people, but I can't really make out. That's how it was, man. And it was so loud. It was beyond overwhelming. I got chills thinking about that first game at Minute Maid, and we did it. We absolutely did it. But then Fenway comes around. And have you ever been to Fenway Park?
I have, yeah.
I mean, you know, I'm a Kansas City Royals fan. You know, I'm not a Yankees fan, so I don't hate the Red Sox. But walking into that ballpark, you feel the ghosts of baseball past walking in there. You feel
Agreed.
everything that is right and true and pure about the game of baseball. And now the Bananas are coming into town with their crazy, outlandish people hating, you know, and we walk in there and you look around and you sell it out. You talk to the staff afterwards, and they say, "Man, we've seen a lot of things here at Fenway, and that was honestly one of the greatest things I've ever seen because I saw smiles, I saw people singing, I saw families hugging and crying, and that right there, when we crushed it at Fenway, that's when I was like, sky's the limit on this thing. It's not about selling tickets; it's about creating joy and happiness in front of 5,000 or 100,000, and that's when I knew like this thing is really, 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 really real."
I mean, okay. I got to ask, and because you deal with this on a daily, do people still hate the Bananas? See, I think people hated you in 2020, 2021 because they thought it was a shot at baseball, right? Oh, they're the Harlem Globetrotters of baseball, and But Jesse was a visionary because in 2024, these kids, and it's not their fault, Snapchat, Instagram, video games, everything in their lives is quick, everything is moving, and everything's changing on a daily basis, whether we want it or not. We can't stop it. But do you still get the type of vibe that you got in 2021 if a guy walks in on stilts?
Yeah. I think I have a note right here on my whiteboard. I want to go grab it really quick because it's necessary for me to kind of answer this question. Give me 1 second.
Hell yeah.
So 2021, we were a joke, right? You guys are a circus. This isn't real baseball. Now, mind you, 2021, we were playing banana ball rules, but it looked very similar to baseball. And so people really were kind of just attacking the dancing and things like that. It was 2022 when we started doing a lot of the walk-ups and a lot of the kind of the in-game entertainment for the players, right? And that's when people were like, this is scripted. You guys are stupid. This is dumb. You guys are bastardizing the game of baseball. You guys should be run out of the country. Sure, we got all those comparisons to the Harlem Globetrotters, which, quite frankly, is an honor, but historically is incorrect because the Harlem Globetrotters created the game of basketball as we know it today. The basketball wasn't played the way that the Globetrotters played back in the day with the dunks and the passes and the high impact stuff. They literally, the Globetrotters were brought in to play professional teams, NBA teams, just to put butts in the seats. So it was reversed, right? And then NBA started taking those players, and then they went on and kind of became those things. The game of baseball was already is crystallized, and sure, it's it's changing. We just are doing something a little bit different. So 2022 is when we saw a lot of hate. 2023 is when guys like David Portnoy, we were like, I hate the Bananas, and you have it's really interesting because it's a lot like politics. You have some people who love us and people who you wouldn't expect loving us. And then you have the keyboard cowboys, behind there just throwing venom at Jackson Olsen and Coach Rack and all these guys who honestly are, if you knew them, they're some of the most fantastic human beings. They don't deserve some of the hatred, but they also have the perspective on what this whole thing is about. So, I wanted to show you this. So I have these 4 stages here. So in 2022, there was resistance. People are like, this isn't real. Even from a player standpoint, we had a hard time. We had to really, really kind of like convince players to come out. So there was resistance, not from a player standpoint, but from a fan standpoint. And then people were like, okay, you're selling out stadiums. I get it. We're going to resign. I guess we just have to kind of give in. The 2023 rolled around, and Banana Land, which is our series that was on ESPN, and then they did a second season, and people really saw an inside look on what makes us tick. And they realized that we're not circus freaks. We're not weirdos. We're real baseball people who love just bringing joy and happiness to people. And like, hey, if you don't like people who bring joy and happiness, sorry, right? Like, go see a therapist. Now here we are in 2024, which ironically is number 4 down there, and we're being embraced. We're being embraced by former big league legends like Roger Clemens and Johnny Damon and Jake Peavy and all these guys. I mean, there's a laundry list going on. We're being embraced by Major League Baseball. We're being embraced by Team USA. We're being embraced by everybody out there. And Jesse knew that we had to get through the ugly to get through to where people are like, okay, cool, I like you. It was very important that we did our job, though, by making sure that baseball was good, that the level of play on the field was surprising and at a high level, very high level. That was very important. That's our job. The show piece, all the entertainment piece, they knew that they had to continue to up their game so they didn't become obsolete. That Saturday Night Live went through this, through the 80s, 70s, and 80s. That Saturday Night Live was it, right? And then there was like a little bit of a lull. And then they were like, geez, this isn't good. And so they started building it up, and they didn't want to become obsolete. So from the entertainment side and the baseball side, we understood that we had a really, really important job to do in order to kind of carry this flag. We wanted to make sure that if you came to a game, that you weren't like, oh, I saw it, kind of like the Globetrotters. I saw it, I don't need to see another one. We want people dying to come back, like your favorite rock band, right? Dave Matthews is one of my favorite bands in the entire world. I've seen them probably 30 times. They play a lot of the same songs, slightly different. I'm still fired up to go to a Dave Matthews band concert and see what is different. It's going to be similar but different, right? That is what we're doing. The baseball is 100% real. Nothing's scripted. The only things that are scripted are entertainment pieces. So if the guys do a dance, we had a guy light his hand on fire, but he really threw that pitch, right? So the baseball is real, and if it's not, this doesn't work.
Let me jump in real quick. But being a baseball player is not enough now.
No.
Right? Like tryouts aren't tryouts. Tryouts are, oh man, it's like I'm trying out for a Broadway show or I'm an actor in a movie. What else can I bring to the whole that's going to make me special? I mean, I don't mean this with any disrespect to any baseball player. Anyone can hit a ball, throw a ball, catch a ball. Why are you different? Yeah. How has that even? Because I remember at the beginning, Viro, those 6 games originally were players from the Coastal Plains League, or they were going to another league, and it was kind of like an early minor league spring training for the guys. Well, that's not the case anymore. These are full-time employees of Fans First Entertainment. Yeah,
you nailed it. So those first 2 tours, they were those short runs, and it was mostly guys who were playing independent ball, and it was kind of like a spring training for them. All the games were happening before May, before the report dates. And so for them, it was great. They get to see some live at-bats. They kind of get on the field and get moving around before they go on to their indie ball team. Nowadays, the last 2 tours, full-time employees, 12-month contracts. And to your point, what do you bring to the table? We tell players, what are you going to do on a baseball field that nobody's ever seen before? What are you going to do on a baseball field that nobody's ever seen before? And so the number one thing nowadays is the trick plays. The trick plays are next level. if anybody watching this thinks that, they're not really good baseball players, I could probably do those things. I want you to go look at our highlight reel on YouTube of the top 10 trick plays of the tour thus far. And what you'll see is DR Meadows, who was a shortstop converted to a center fielder, doing backflips.
Dropping the ball between his legs, picking it up bare hand, and then still throwing a guy out.
That's Ryan Cox, our shortstop, but DR Meadows doing the backflip and catching the ball midair. He did one earlier in the season where he ditched the glove, backflip, caught it barehanded off the bat. I mean, the ball was hit by Jake Skoll, former first-round draft pick, and it was hit 98 miles per hour, 390 feet away. Okay, that is unbelievable. We have Major League Baseball players who comment on that catch. We have Major League Baseball players who come to us and say, I won't be able to do this. All right, and so, but at tryouts nowadays, we can find good baseball players. That's easy. The easy thing is finding good baseball players. It's hard to find high-level baseball players who are able to bring something to the party that we have never seen before. The bar is slowly getting higher.
Do you ask for videos to be sent before tryout, or are tryouts still open? Like for me at this point, right? Like 4 years later, again, assuming you can play a little bit of baseball, like what else do you have? I need to see more. Like, don't waste your time. Send me video. Like, are you guys doing that stuff now?
We are. So you got to fill out a tryout submission, and it's you have your basic information: position, height, weight, where'd you play, how do you know about us? But one of the things that you're going to have to do when you're on the Bananas or one of our other teams is you need to be able to connect with the fans, both online and in person. So we ask, how are you going to do that? How are they going to remember you? What type of connection are you going to make and a lasting impression are you going to make with the fans? Give us a look into you, what you would bring to the party, right? Social media is big. It's not everything, but we got on the map because of social media. And so the more that we can pump out there, the more that people will see what we're all about. They're going to get to know you. They'll become a fan of you. They're going to buy your jersey. But it also shows us that you're fans first and that you really, really care about the people who really matter. It's not about your stats. It's not about who wins and loses. It's all about those fans. And so we ask them about that. And certainly we ask them for a video. A lot of folks will just kind of submit videos of them doing something crazy, some sort of talent, doing some sort of trick plays. And then that is taken under evaluation. Our tryouts are all invite only nowadays, because if we had a cattle call, it would be crazy. If the Yankees had a cattle call at Yankee Stadium, there'd be 5 million people lined up. I don't think we'd have 5 million, but
again, it just props to where you were and where you've come from in 2 years, right? Because 2 years ago, it really kind of was open tryouts, right?
Correct.
Like three years ago for sure. That's incredible, man.
Well,
so you added the firefighters. You brought up the firefighters. I actually know one of them, Alex Bentley. A kid that Fish introduced me 2 years ago. What's the plan for expansion? Is that kind of the way this grows into a league of banana ball rules, or where are you going with this stuff?
Yeah. So we have 3 full-time teams now. We have the Bananas, we have the Party Animals, and we now have the Firefighters. Firefighters played about 35 games this past season. They played in front of a sold-out crowd at Washington Nationals Park. And we will be introducing a 4th team on October 3rd during our draft review. And so we're going to introduce that 4th team. We know that we have something that people want, even if it's not the Bananas. And the Bananas are the main draw, right? We all get that, and that's the way it always is going to be. But the Party Animals have a draw now. They did their own headlining tour, and they sold out 9 games, 12 games, and that show is slightly different, right? Banana ball rules all apply, but it's kind of like Cirque du Soleil. Like, which one do you want to go to? They're all slightly different but similar. And so we introduced the firefighters. And when we come up with these brands, these team names, we want it to kind of like Disney characters where, you have something that people are really going to resonate to, right? Some people love, I don't even know Disney characters, but you got Mickey Mouse, you got Minnie Mouse, you got Goofy, you got all those things. And some people love them individually, right? And so the firefighters really came to be when we sat down in this meeting and we're throwing all these ideas for team names out there. Jesse when firefighters was suggested, you could see his head start spinning, and he's like, okay, it's not just the team, it is the experience. What does it look like to go to a firefighters game? Okay, I can see fire trucks, I can see fire hoses, I can see ladders, I can see different types of foods that are firefighter related. I can see the uniforms, I can see recognizing our heroes who fight every single day to keep us safe. I can see all of that, right? And that's a unique experience, right? Like, you could be a Bananas fan, you can be a Party Animals fan, and you can really get behind the firefighters too, right? And so that's how the firefighters came to be is, hey man, how do we create a brand? How do we create a team that people can really rally behind nationwide, right? And our 4 team that we're going to launch has a very, very similar vibe, And so, the goal is to have some more teams where we can play banana ball, because we have people who want to see our shows. And, the really cool thing is getting a Bananas ticket is very, very difficult. I every single day, I'm not kidding you, Eric, every single day for the past 3 years of my life, people are like, can you give me tickets? Good friends of mine, my mom, my dad, my friends, you, everybody, can you give me tickets? The answer is, man, I wish I could. I can't. So now people have an opportunity to come to this great show. If it's other teams, it's a little bit easier to get a Party Animal and firefighter ticket, but not for long. And so the idea is to create more and more of these exciting experiences for people so they can just come to the ballpark, have a great time with their family in a good, positive environment, and just enjoy entertainment in its purest form. That's it.
So we start out from an abandoned stadium that was basically used here and there in the Coastal Plains League to your home field. We, within 3-4 years, you're selling out big league stadiums like it's nothing. What's next, man? Are we going to Europe? Are we going like intercontinental here? I mean, it's got to be in the plans, right? Like, there's got to be, the Bananas down under. Like, what's next for you guys?
Yeah, we still need to dominate. There's still a lot of work to do on the United States. So the one thing that Jesse always brings up is Chick-fil-A. Chick-fil-A dominating. They're not even open on Sundays, and they're blowing everybody out of the water on revenue who are open 7 days a week. Chick-fil-A doesn't have any franchises outside of the United States. There's still work to do here. And so from our standpoint is we still have a lot of fans. There's 2.8 million fans here in the United States that want to see us. So we need to make sure that we can serve all of those fans. So for us, it's playing in bigger stadiums. You got a big stadium, we'll play it. If you got 100,000 fans that can pack in there, cool. We don't have to play 10 nights. We can play one night and really make an impact on people. So there's still a lot to do on the home front, but bigger stadiums, it's really exciting next year. Can't wait to release this schedule because we're going to be playing some pretty big stadiums. It's going to be cool. But that's really, international is definitely in our sights. I think what we're doing could go off huge in Japan. I think people in Japan would lose their minds if we went there. And so I can't wait to bring Banana Ball to Japan. But I also can't wait to bring Banana Ball to all of the corners of the United States next year.
Well, me too, because then, Viro could get me a ticket when I do ask him for one. Do you ever stop and pinch yourself? Do you ever look back and thank your parents for just supporting you? A lot of parents push their kids. My son the lawyer, my son the doctor, my son the accountant. You know, and Viro, you are who you are, but you are who you are because of where you started. So your parents helped create this incredibly supportive environment for you. And here you are, having gone through school and gone through law school. You obviously couldn't see this coming. Do you ever really just kind of like take a breath and look around and go, holy shit. And then I'm going to ask you, and we can end on this for today. Do you see yourself doing anything else?
I take gratitude walks every single day. I learned that from a now good friend of mine, Eric Burns, former big leaguer.
Sure.
He coached the Bananas for a little while, and absolute phenomenal human being. He got me into writing down a daily gratitude, and that has changed my life. It really, really has. It's allowed me to kind of keep perspective on, in this hurricane of that we're going through. And so every single day, Eric, I thank somebody for what they've done for me. I thank somebody for giving me a shot. I've thanked somebody for forgiving me and giving me the opportunity to be better the next day. And certainly my parents. I just saw my mom last weekend. We were in Des Moines. She came to the game, and I did had a moment with her when we're on the field, and she's wearing her number 16 Virant jersey, and she's just so happy, and she's talking to everybody about who I am and this, that, and the other. And I was like, you know what? I wasn't perfect. I tried, and but thank you for being that rock. Thank you for showing me how to act appropriate for every situation. And most importantly, thank you for showing me how to be compassionate towards others. Those were things that I would have never said but for being here at the Bananas. Even, I'm in my 40s, and you would think that I would have been more caring and loving towards my mom and saying those things, but I say those now, and to my father as well, that yeah, they were tough on me, but they were holding the line. Gary Vaynerchuk just had a post, and he said, I'm going to be really, really hard on kids for 5 or 6 years, because I know the next 20, 30, 40 years are going to be better. If I'm not hard on them for 5 or 6 years now, then those 30, 40, 50 years are going to be hell on earth for them. And so that doesn't mean beat your kids up. That doesn't mean, demean them and be like, hey, like you're not as good as me. It really means, positive support, positive encouragement. One of my mentors, Kyle Wagner from the Go Wags down in Pennsylvania, says, surround yourself with honest but encouraging people who have the care that they're going to tell you honestly what's going on, but they're encouraging at the same time, so it doesn't feel like they're just beating you up. And so I've surrounded myself intentionally with honest but encouraging people. And more importantly, I give back daily in my mind. I'll call them up. I'll write them a note with gratitude for allowing me to be here. I wake up every day, Eric, when I come to a game, and I say, man, when is the fire going to burn out? When am I no longer going to be energized? And I tell you what, being around people who care about me, who are honest, encouraging, surrounded by love, and going out and doing something positive and putting smiles on people's faces is everything. And to answer your question, I'm never, ever going to do anything the rest of my life. I am, as long as we stay true to our mission, fans first, putting joy and smile on people's faces, there's nowhere in the world, no job, no amount of money that you can pay me to go do anything else. And so I am beyond fortunate. I understand that the opportunity that I have here, this doesn't exist anywhere else. And, while there are walks of life and there's jobs and where that can give you energy, this is what gives me energy every single day. And man, I'm fired up. We play at Citizens Bank Park this weekend. I can't wait to go back to Philly.
Hell yeah, man. Viro, listen, man, I can't thank you enough for spending some time with us today. I getting your perspective and just listening to you just puts a smile on my face and inside my person, because not everybody truly cares. People act like they care. I'm just so happy, and I mean, proud. Who am I to be proud of you? I'm really proud that you saw this through. Please give Jesse and Emily my best. I would hope Jesse would remember me. And, dude, I look forward to seeing you at some point on the road. Again, I'm not going to ask for a ticket, but maybe a Philly cheesesteak. I'll meet you around back. I know better than to ask for a ticket now. But all the best to you today and always. And, again, thanks for being with us today.
Man, Eric, I appreciate you, and keep fighting the good fight there in New York, man. Those youth players, they need you, and hold the line there, buddy.
We got the kids. It's the parents. I'm fighting them every day, but we the kids always and forever. Viro, thank you, and we'll talk soon, kiddo.
I appreciate you, buddy. Thanks, Eric.
All right, thank you, my man.